We're live now, by the way.
Great. Great.
So, hi everybody. I'm Satora from the Rising of the Gentle Hearted, and today my guest is Claire Mendelson of The Wizard's Way. And Claire is, I wrote it in my Substack post that you will always have a special place in my heart for jumping in with me when I had this idea of doing Project Magic at the we're both at Dave's Grace School of the Possible, where we do studio run 6 weeks where everybody works on their own creative project of their choice. And I had just discovered that and absolutely loved it. And then Dave announced a 2 months hiatus, and I was like, "What? No! Don't take this away from me!" And Claire and I did not know each other except for talking a little bit, meeting there a little bit. But then we met in person for the first time, and I brought that idea before you, Claire, and you said yes. And I'm so glad somebody's did that with me. And you're like the perfect person too for that. Oh, you managed to answer in the chat. Hi. You're good at multitasking. Very good. So, anyways, Claire is a coach for neurodivergent people and people who just don't fit in.
Mhm.
Oh, hi, freaky stalker. Hi, Mia. We're so glad to have you. Welcome. And you've not always been a coach, so I thought we're going to start with you telling your journey,
Yeah.
um, about how you came from having a regular job to now being your own boss and helping people with your coaching.
Yeah. Thank you. And before I start, Satora, you know me quite well now after the journey we've gone through. But one thing
Yeah.
that you probably know about me is like I never know what the appropriate amount of information is to give. So I tend to like either give too little or too much. So I would just like to invite you, like if I'm in the too much phase, feel free to be like, or like this, or do feel free to signal me. I will not find that rude. I welcome that and actually really appreciate feedback. And then if I don't give
Okay.
enough, you can ask for more. So I just wanted to open the door to that. Like I need that feedback, or I don't always know if I'm at the appropriate level. So um, w-
Stefan.
wow,
Stefan's
yeah.
always in a too much space.
I don't find Stefan too much at all, by the way.
Me
I find it
neither.
just right. But yeah, I hear you. So it has been quite a journey for me getting here, and I'm gonna kind of do the beginning part quick, and then we can go into it later and just do the most recent chunk. Um, so I think what I've noticed, I'm 52, and what I've noted, and I've worked since I think I was like 15. You know,
Wow.
and
Mm.
I mean, not full time, but
Yeah,
so
of course.
what I've noticed is that I seem to have about a 10-year tolerance for a career. So I didn't really count that like teenager stuff, but like an actual career, I seem to have like a 10-year tolerance. And so, which kind of aligns with other parts of my life too. And so I've had several changes. And I think that actually in terms of becoming a coach has really worked well for me. So my first career, I was a biologist, so evolution and ecology, and I did like field research, and
Oh.
then I quickly realized that I didn't. To be in academia, I was going to have to live wherever the jobs were,
Mm-hmm.
and place is very important to me. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I need to be able to choose more where I'm going to live.
Yeah.
So I transferred from that to teaching science. I was never going to be a teacher. My parents were both teachers. It was a family business, was never going to do it. Did it for 11 years. Taught middle school and high school science and math.
Mm.
Um, transitioned out of that into working for Austin Energy Green Building and the EPA here in Seattle. Learned that I didn't really need to work for government either because I was I was very environmentally minded, that I
Mm,
didn't fit in working for government, and so that got me working for a local environmental firm. And so I started there doing outreach work, outreach education. So I wasn't like the primary teacher, but I was going into schools and doing outreach primarily like waste issues,
mm,
waste reduction, and different ways to think about waste, but some like water conservation as well. And so I tried to leave that job and got recruited back as their communications manager, which I always find kind of hilarious because I'm autistic. And one of the common things about autistic folks is um, most of the world thinks we have communication deficits or communication problems. And so the fact that they wanted me to be their communications manager, and I was like, look, I don't have a communications degree. I didn't study this,
mm,
but I had studied whole systems design. So my master's is in whole systems design, and I was really into, which fits right in with ecology.
mm,
Who knew? And so I got recruited back as their comms manager, and then quickly started in true autistic fashion. My computer went black again. There we go. In true autistic fashion, like started seeing where all their systems were broken for the
mm.
place that I worked. I started seeing every hole and everything that was broken and like the way they handled technology and just was like, we got to fix all of this. You know,
Yeah,
we got
right
to fix
now.
all this. This is illogical. And
Yeah.
so kind of became the self-appointed tech support manager too. And then that rolled me somehow. And then at one point I got promoted to their operations director. And that was a huge crash for me because in hindsight, I understand it a little bit more, but I've been given the
Mm,
language. I was transformed from being a maker to a manager. I was
mm,
managing people before as communications manager, but I was also making things. Like I had my hand, I was doing stuff.
yeah.
And so when the promotion happened, they kind of didn't want me to do stuff. They, for lack of better words, they just wanted me to make other people do stuff.
Mm.
And that was weird. I didn't like it, and I got involved with the Happy Startup School to like really analyze this. And now I'm really getting to your question. I promise, it's coming. It's coming. And so,
You're right on track.
okay,
I
good.
heard.
And so I was like, I got promoted. That's
Hi,
supposed to
Brad.
be this good thing, and I'm miserable.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely miserable. And I know this is you're talking about school to possible. I know this is a story that I've heard from other people too. And so I got involved with Happy Startup School's program. At the time was called Vision 2020, and it was like this deep dive into looking into my goal was to looking into why I was miserable and what I wanted to do about it. And through working, and so that did a couple of things to me for me. One, post 20, so in 2020, I was pretty much done with all humans. I was like, humans are, I had a really like huge and I'm not being overly dramatic here, I had a huge existential crisis with humans
Mm,
and what humans were doing. And everybody here was alive then. So I'm not going to go over why, but I was just rocked by what was happening. And it happened before that, but I hit a bottom in 2020 and was like, really, honestly, if I wasn't a parent, I would have gone into the woods and tried to live as a hermit by myself. Um, but I was a parent, so that was not a responsible choice.
yeah.
So, anyway, getting into Happy Startup School, I was like, oh, wait, I actually do like some humans. So it gave me like connection with humanity again. And it it just like it kind of like, oh, okay, it like and it started to slowly like reprogram my brain. Um, in the meantime, for about just the same thing that's happening this whole time is I am sitting on a latent that I had forgotten about ADHD diagnosis.
You
And
forgot about it. Yeah.
yes,
So
isn't that
very
hilarious?
ADHD.
Isn't that the funniest meta thing for an ADHD person?
It's very ADHD.
That's another story. I can tell that in a sec. But um, but I was also working through. I had already I had had a therapist say, "Do you think you could be autistic?" When I was in her office for the gazillionth time, talking about how I didn't understand people. Um, and so, um, and I was getting the autism diagnosis too. So this was kind of all happening at the same time. And so what came out through Happy Startup School and through working with like a small cohort of folks was something's got to change. Like I
Mm,
can't keep doing what I'm doing, and that there's reasons that I'm unhappy in this current job. There was a values mismatch. Like I was high level, high authority, all that, but myself and the owners of the company had some values differences. Um,
mm,
and had some just primary ways of working that were misaligned. In hindsight now, I know it was pretty classic autistic, allistic, or autistic neurotypical interaction. Um, didn't totally understand that to the depth that I do now. So I had decided, I think I really need to work for myself. I think I really need that level of autonomy and
mm.
um, values freedom to do what I think is right. And I'm incredibly motivated. Like I will work hard. Not, I mean, I can't do it every day. It goes like this. But I'm a hard worker. I'm very
Mm.
motivated, but I couldn't do it in that framework anymore. And so what I really wanted to do was just write and create things. And that loops back to being a science teacher. One of my favorite things about teaching was curriculum creation and writing
Mm.
lesson plans and crafting, ways of learning. So that was my first thought. And then folks in my cohort said, "Hey, did you ever think about coaching? You ask a lot of questions."
It's
You ask so many questions. I think that you should consider this. And so it took me, I don't know, 6 months or whatever of pondering that to be like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. So I gave notice on my job. Well, okay, first thing I had to do was take a deep breath and go to my partner and say, "I want to do this and I want you to support me," which is very against my way of how I was raised. Like
mm,
separate bank accounts, take care of myself, like this ridiculously, I don't know, straightforward way. Like this is how it was. I did not have so he had actually been asking me for years, like, "Look, I make way more money than you. Why are you trying to pay 50% of everything?" You know?
mm.
Um, so I was so nervous and I was so scared. And I said it to him and he said, "Okay." I was like, "Oh my God." So yeah, I gave notice in July after taking I took a 2 week break from work and I actually went on FMLA leave and came back and said, I gotta go and I'll stay till the end of the year.
Mm.
And then that scaled back to October 31st because I love Halloween. No, it was October 30th because I didn't want to work on Halloween. So it's like, I'll work till the 30th. Um, and yeah. And so what I had bargained with Max, my partner, about was that I have a year to learn and to build a business. Um,
Learn
and
and build the business in a year.
I know, right?
That
Yeah.
sounds like a
So
tall
what
order.
Yeah. So um, what actually happened is actually really good news. Um, I, the coaching field is not regulated. I did not have to go back for training. Um, but I'm very intellectually minded. My parents were, that's how we related best, right? That was our
Mm,
connection to each other is like on an intellectual plane. And so, um, but looking back at like university programs, it there are there's some I'm seeing some movement now, but even 2 years ago, they were so incredibly behind in terms of the autistic experience
mm,
um, that I was like, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to go to a university. I'm going to learn, pathological paradigm. I'm going to learn medical mindset. I'm going to learn all this stuff that that lived experience says is not true.
Mm,
And so I ended up um, signing up for training for ADHD coaching through ADCA,
mm,
the ADD Coaching Academy. And I found one option for autism coaching, and that is an organization called AANE, Association for Autism and Neurodiversity, in Massachusetts. Fabulous organization. Any autistic folks or people with family members, like aane.org, go there. They have amazing resources. Um, and so I decided to do that training. It happens once a year. And then the ADHD training it took about a year to do. And so in
mhm.
that first year, really the first 4 months, maybe 6, we'll say 6, that feels more real, was all about getting out of toxic productivity.
Yeah.
Um,
It only took you for a few months.
it took like
That's
4 to 6 months. I know, shocking, right? I would have expected after doing it for 35 years or whatever.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Um, and then it was also about like building community. And like I said, like um, really kind of getting like finding, because that's key in my journey too, right? Is School of the Possible has really been fabulous for me in being with other like creative, imaginative
Mm,
thinkers, right? And beers and people that exist in
yes,
this
yeah.
space. And then the other thing that's been essential is being in community with other autistic people. And for the first time in my life, not feeling like I was the alien in the room,
Mm,
and hearing simple things. We were having a conversation before, Sator and I, about going to the grocery store, like
mm,
very simple things that if I share what that's like for me in most circles, people look at me like the most of the time when I try and share my experience, I get nothing.
yeah.
People they don't argue with me, but it's just like flat. Like there's no connection. It's like I'm speaking another language.
I don't even dare tell them that. The other day I went to Trader Joe's and it was a bigger shop and I was in the store for over an hour and that was around noon. Totally wiped me out for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I don't even dare to tell people
Yeah.
that because they think I'm.
Hmm.
Why don't you function properly?
Yeah. Well, because my nervous system operates differently than you.
yeah.
Yeah, and I have sensory. Yeah. So I quickly found that um, I quickly found that neurodivergence and all things neurodivergence wasn't only a personal experience and a grounding. I call it the unifying theory of me. So like in science, how there's unifying theories in each
yeah.
discipline that
Yeah.
but pull together. Evolution is the unifying theory of biology. It pulls together all the other arms of biology. Um, this was like the unifying theory of me. I was like, oh, I make sense all of a
Mm,
sudden. It also was an extreme special interest, where
mm,
I couldn't get enough of learning about it and hearing about experiences and um, and soaking it in. And so yeah, so the first bits were all about like getting out of toxic productivity, because I worked at a consulting firm. So we track time in 15-minute increments.
mm.
And for somebody that now I know how time challenged and how transition challenged I am, like it it's like, you know, I was like, I need to be doing 3 things at once. I need to be checking my email. I need to be I only have value if I get 10 things done and like that was my like constant existence.
Very stressful.
Uh-huh. Um, and I'm not saying I'm 100% out of that, but given space and given the ability to control my immediate environment, I was able to get rid of quite a bit of that. Um, and then I finished my 2 training programs, and then it was like, all right, it's a year, and I'm very literal. So I said I would do a year. So like a year to the day, I'm like, okay, should be ready to go now. And and what you already kind of anticipated, like it wasn't quite like that, right? It was a more of a slower transition and more of a
Mm,
trickle. Um, but the greatest news is that those folks were right. I really do enjoy coaching.
mm,
I like the one-on-one. Um, I frame it, in my wizard's way as a guide. Like a guide or a companion, even. Like sometimes I'm
yeah.
not even the guide. I'm like the I'm like the familiar, the little animal familiar or something. Um, eh, that's really just there to like ask questions and hold that sacred space, and give permission to like you are supposed to just focus on you right now.
Mm,
Yeah, and being really clear, this is not therapy, and we can talk about that. It's very different than therapy, but it my one of my favorite pieces of feedback that I've got from a client is she said this is a profound space that I've experienced nowhere else. And that was career coaching, but she's like, nowhere else was I just allowed to come in and talk about what was and wasn't working
mm.
in my job. Um, so yeah,
It's
yeah, I,
amazing. I,
I
I
think,
mean, it's an
yeah,
amazing transition to leave the security of a job and go into working for yourself in the scary unknown where there are no guardrails or
yeah,
securities. And well, thank God you have a partner who will
yeah,
probably you have health insurance and stuff like that.
yeah. Well,
So
and that's a key. Like, so because I'm let's just talk the reality of that for a second, right? Because I have chronic illness. I have something called anti-synthetase syndrome, which is a incredibly rare, of course, weird. I've always joked I was a medical enigma, um, autoimmune disease. But I get 2 to 4 infusions a month, and each of those infusions is about $20,000.
whoa,
Holy, right? Like,
holy, yeah.
so if I, there's zero chance that I would have been able to do this, um, without the support of my partner, without
Mm,
insurance. There's zero chance. Um, I often wonder, because I'm very much grounded in fantasy and science fiction and all that, and I also often think like, if there is a post-apocalyptic situation, I just don't think I'm going to make it because without my medicines, I would be bedridden.
mm,
You know, um, and I don't mean that like morose or bad. I just mean it for what it is. Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Unless a miracle happens and you get
exactly.
healed, which is
Yeah,
always possible.
it's always possible, right? Yeah, that's true. That's a
Because
good
maybe
point.
if everything else falls away, that falls away too. Who knows?
Well, yeah, you make such a good point because I have this very strong feeling that there is a connection between the what I unintentionally did to my body and my nervous system through high levels of masking and
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 stress.
what I experienced. Yeah, yeah. So
Well, that means it could be reversible, right? Now that you're living a different life and
yeah.
may take some time, but
And what I do notice is there are some big changes that I notice, right?
mhm,
And I will say, the number one thing is like in relation to spoon theory, right? That we have so many spoons. It's like energy management,
yeah,
right? Throughout the day. And that, when I was employed by others working that job, every day I would get home and I was just absolutely miserable from like 5:30 until 8 o'clock every night. I was absolutely miserable. I was starting to question, do I hate my family? Like everyone was driving me nuts. I had no tolerance. I didn't, it was just like how, and I'm a very cheery human by nature. And so it
Mm.
was like, I felt like, what has happened to me? I've turned into like an ogre and everything was horrible. Well, I was spent.
Yeah, totally burned out.
I was completely, yeah. And so I had nothing left by the time that I got to home. And
Mm.
so, yeah, and that has turned around. That has turned around. I'll have a day or two, where maybe I feel like that, but um, no, I'm like able to manage my energy throughout the day, and I'm able to try and although my ADHD pull is real, but I'm able to at least every day try not to overschedule myself and try to exist in a more healthy way. Um,
Yeah,
and so that I can get through a day. Yeah.
and when you overschedule yourself, you can regulate because you're
Hmm.
the boss. You can adjust.
Yeah.
You're not in an environment where you just have to deliver all the time.
Yeah. Well, and I have a fully open rescheduling cancellation policy for my clients. Like if you're not up for it, reschedule, cancel. I don't care when it is. Doesn't need to be 24 hours. Doesn't need to be whatever. Just do it. Like, and in fact, I would prefer that than to have someone show up just fried when they don't
Mm.
have capacity. And I said, sometimes I'm gonna have to reschedule with you. I don't ever want to do it, but sometimes it's gonna happen. If I'm having a flare up or I just can't. So yeah. So I have seen a huge health difference. Um, a huge mindset difference.
And
Yeah.
quality of life.
Yeah.
I mean, your life is yours for the living, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
what's the
And
point?
friends and stuff that have known me for a while, have actually said to me like, "Yeah, you're different." And I'm like, "Really?
Mm.
How?" Like, "What?" Because I thought I was so good at like keeping it all in. Yeah. So
So this was only our first topic.
I
Not
know,
sure.
I know, I know. It's a
Not
big one.
sure. Are there any questions from the audience about this or comments? So there have been comments. It sounds like people empathize. Yeah.
I
Maybe we
appreciate
should.
the comments. Yeah.
Okay. Did you find labels help, Claire?
That's a great question. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. So, and I want to start by saying like this is a very personal question, and so I appreciate that it says directed at me, right? Because that gives me permission to just give my experience and just know I'm talking about me. Period. Um, yes, incredibly helpful for me. And one of the most common experiences that I had when I did try to share with others, loved ones even, like, "Hey, I'm autistic." I got, "Why do you need to label it? You don't need to label it." Not even why. Just, "You don't need to label it." Like, I got that a lot, and I said, "No, I do. I really do, because that allows me to understand who I am." I got a lot of the folks that I love want to not use the word autistic, but use neurodivergent, um, which is okay. And that also shows someone that's they're growing in their understanding of what autism is, right? There's some little bit of fear there about using the word autism.
Mm,
Um, Gee,
I
I wonder
relate to
why.
that.
Yeah, gee, I wonder why. But uh, Yeah. So no, I yes, I do. I like the labels. I also like I'm a literal person, but I'm not in a box. I also exist in paradox. So like I'm okay, like one label isn't limiting to me. I have many labels, right? I have my identity is vast. So,
Okay, now we gotta make a decision because we're at a half hour point, which is about the usual time. Um, should we continue or schedule another? We could probably easily continue another half hour with the other topics.
your call,
So
what do
I,
you feel more comfortable with? Like I'm good to keep going.
yeah,
Uh,
me too. Do you feel the label is the beginning or the end of understanding who you are?
ooh. So I think I really do think it was the beginning that it was because it was that therapist, lovely human named Hannah, like that asked me, "Do you think you could be autistic?" And so that was the label. And I was like, I don't know. That's a very interesting question. And so what that allowed me to do was go do like exploration and find all the amazingly fabulous content creators on YouTube and whatever. I started with Yosemite Sam. She's doing other things now, but like I started with her videos and then Taylor Heaton, Mom on the Spectrum,
Mm.
Orion Kelly.
Yeah,
Like there's
understood.
just yeah. So I started like just listening to other people's experiences over and over again before doing anything else. So yeah, it was like a door opening, you know, it's like a door
Yeah.
opening.
Mom on the Spectrum helped me a lot because she was the one where she put out a list of high masking autistic women, and here are the signs. And I
Hmm.
looked at that list. Oh shit,
Yep.
that's me. I could check almost all
Yep.
the things. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And she has a fabulous community too that I'm a part of, right? That it's just about supporting each other and yeah. Yeah, and from one of her groups, a side group spun off, and I've been meeting with these folks every Wednesday morning before School of Possible for years. So,
So, yeah, let's continue.
all right.
I think. Um, because we were talking about the coaching, and you said one thing you'd love to talk about is what's the difference, how does coaching work, and what's
Oh
the
yeah.
difference between coaching and therapy, which I think is a really interesting
Mhm.
question. So,
Yeah.
oh, I
Yeah.
want
Oh,
to
and
hear about the wizards.
the wizards too. Yeah. Yeah. I'll see if I can actually work that into this answer here. That's a good fun challenge. I do improv theater, so like trying to mash two things up is fun. Okay. So there's several different ways to think about therapy and coaching. The first thing that I'll say is for a lot of folks, um, kind of really doing them in parallel is a great idea. Um, there's a whole side tangent to talk about cognitive behavior therapy and autistics that I could go off on, but I'm not going to stay on target because talk therapy perhaps doesn't work that great always for us. Um, But so the one way to think about it is like where is the focus, right? In the concept of time. So most therapy is in the present, but there's quite a bit of looking back.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of dealing with the past and processing the past, right? You might look in the future a little bit, but that's more rare, right? Whereas coaching, very grounded in the present and looking forward. So that doesn't mean that we don't reference the past, but that's not where we spend our time, right? We're really more like here we are. This is this is where I am now. This is where I want to be, and this is the path to get there. So that's one way of thinking about it. Another way of thinking about the difference is, and then we'll go wizards, I promise, is um, coaching is goal oriented, and I am still on the hunt for other words for goals, because especially the ADHD crowd, sometimes that goal word is incredibly triggering.
Mm.
Um, there's a focus. There's something specific that we're looking at and we're trying to change. Maybe it's an exploration, right? Whatever word you want to use there. Where therapy is a little more nebulous, right, and different. And so I think those are the primary ones. It's like, where are we grounded in time, and is it goal driven or not? Is it Yeah. So the wizard thing came up. Um, and I've had some great conversations with different people about this lately. It came up when was deciding to create a business. And so one of the things I knew about myself is that I need to be grounded in story and I need to be grounded in metaphor. So looking at the world straight on for me is a little too much. But looking at it through story, I find it very approachable. And so, like a classic example is Star Trek. I'll use Star Trek as an example.
Oh, me
That's
too.
largely how Star Trek was developed, right? Is that can we look at social issues through story, um, rather than looking at them straight on, right? I'm a big fan. We were talking about the X-Men before. I have X-Men everywhere. I have my X-Men mug.
Mm.
I have my X-Men tattoos. I'm a big fan of that because the X-Men story is largely about being a mutant or being other,
Mm. Different.
having abilities, but no one really caring. You know,
Mm.
the general population just you're different, and we don't like you, kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, so I knew I was grounded in story, um, and so I was kind of playing around with. Yeah, there's a TARDIS there too. I have a client right now who I adore, who's really into Doctor Who, and I love Doctor Who too. But I had to go find my TARDIS. I was like, oh, I gotta put my TARDIS up. Um, and so just like playing around with a lot of different images of a guide. Is what am I as a guide? You know, um, and I landed on wizard because wizards are wizards are intellectual, wizards are studied, wizards are magical, wizards are different. I don't identify with gender. That's a new discovery of me. I mean, I always knew it, but I didn't know how to label it until recently. And so I didn't care if wizards were male or female. Like that didn't mean anything to me. Um, and I like alliteration too. So wizard's way, like anytime,
Mm.
like that language. So it really comes from the story and the magic and science kind of merging.
Mm.
Um, and that I don't care about gender. Yeah. So,
There's a question from Brad. The way you describe yourself as a guide and the client story you shared suggests you focus on the present. How does this come alongside future
mm,
based coaching and past based therapy?
mhm. Um, so really, um, let's see if I have a visual here. Really traditional or really common metaphors around paths, right? Or around like where am I starting and where am I going, is largely part of my work. So, and I've been really grounded lately in something that comes from 12-step programs, but it's not really related to that, in awareness, acceptance, and action. So like knowing that there's something that you're unhappy about, sitting with it, after the awareness, don't just jump into doing something,
Yeah.
the sitting with it. And acceptance doesn't mean you agree with it. It just means that you've spent the time really acknowledging what is. And then finally that action step can move you forwards. So like my experimental mindset, which I've done some things with School of the Possible, is like we use the metaphor of where are you now? Like what's your starting point? What's the village that you're starting from? And where do you think you want to be? Like I think I want to be at that elven castle. Like that lifestyle looks sweet. We don't actually know, it might suck, right? But that's where you think you want to be. And then how
Mm.
am I going to get there? So that's kind of the where are you now? Where do you think you want to be? And how can we do experiments to figure out if that's the right path for you or not? Um, did I answer that question? I don't know. And I guess the past, how does this come in based in past based therapy? Um, I guess the past and the why it's sometimes really useful to be in therapy at the same time is I think sometimes understanding the self requires that looking back, right? Like being
Yeah,
able to understand
can
yourself.
I
Yeah.
add something to that?
Please. Yes.
From my own journey, that uh, I come from the spiritual world, so but it all comes together because it's all about there is a dream,
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
there's something I want that I don't have, or I discover something in myself that I want to change. So it's all the
Hmm.
same principle. And I feel as soon as I leave my comfort zone and go for something new, the past comes up and goes like, "Huh, no, no."
Yep.
It can be fear, it can be an old trauma, it can be beliefs.
Hmm.
You don't notice while
No.
you're in the comfort zone, you don't notice them
Yeah.
because they guard it. But as soon as you step out of it and go for a goal, and that's what coaching is all about, you
Yeah.
go for something new,
Yeah.
it comes up.
Yeah.
Unless you're a I don't know,
Yeah.
totally healthy person who doesn't have any baggage, it
Yeah.
will
Does that
show up.
I don't think that fully exists. But yeah,
Yeah,
I was talking to
so
somebody about this exactly how you said it. That was really well described. Like yesterday about like get just to use path metaphors again, but like walking down the path and getting to that decision point, that crossroads, right? One path is going to be wide and well trodden and maybe flat, right? Or appearing to be flat, right? And then there might be like one or more other little skinny paths that are harder to walk and that are this. And with this person, that well trodden path though was based in trauma and fear, and there was reason for that. Like this person had experienced time and time again the same thing had happened to them. And so this well trodden path wasn't the good path for them anymore, but it still felt like the easier one to take,
mm,
right? Because it was a wider path. It had happened more often. It was the past, right? And the past was like, no, don't go there. That one's dangerous. We don't know what's down that one. Um, that's what it makes me think of, right? And so it's like that courage. And so sometimes you just need like you have it in you to go down the other path, but sometimes like what if someone could kind of just come with you, you know, or you could have the little parrot on your shoulder, or the little chipmunk in your pocket, or the wizard walking with you, or whatever you want to think about it. What if you could just have someone to go down the other path with you so it felt just like a tiny bit safer?
yeah, preferably somebody who has already explored paths like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
like you.
Yeah.
Drive what's already known.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The force. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just gonna read the comment. The draw of what is already known familiar. The force is strong with that one. It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that fits into our conversation, but I was gonna. We actually we touched on it. Accommodations for neurodivergent. So we both are uh, audi ADHD and autism. I can't
Mhm.
even say that.
Uh,
Audi
I say
DHD.
ADHD, but I've heard it pronounced many
ADHD.
different ways. Yeah.
So I'm very super highly sensitive and empathic. I know you're empathic too. So I actually had a conversation with my guides. I'm a channel. I talk to beings that are not visible, but
Hmm.
they do talk to me, and they were like, it's really time for you to accept who you are, and you are super sensitive. Make accommodations, arrange your life around that instead of trying to function like everybody else, which
Mhm.
I've been trying to do my whole life, and I'm
Yeah.
still doing it. It's still there a little bit, even though I've never had a normal path or a normal life. And so it's really, really important for us to, instead of trying to be like everybody else or what society or the parents or whoever tells us how we should be and function, that we accommodate who we actually really are, and uh, start changing our life accordingly. And that can start with little things like, we talked about this before, you don't hardly ever go shopping in the store because it's a stimulation overwhelm. You just
Mhm.
order your groceries, something
Mhm.
like that. It can be very practical. So do you have any tips on that?
Yes. So I want to read this quote really quick from Nick Walker. And it's, if the primary language for society in which you were born is well suited to the purpose of describing your sensory experiences, your needs, and your thought processes, you may have neurotypical privilege. So I just want to point that out because sensory experience, needs, and thought processes, right? Oh, I'm counting off screen. Are three ways of thinking about this,
Hmm.
right? And so that's the issue. The primary language for the society we are a part of is different from what we're experiencing. And so the first thing is like you said, like having compassion for self, like for getting to that point of acceptance. And then not beating yourself up for masking or for trying to fit in for all
Yeah,
those years because of course you did. Because
of
of course
course.
I did.
Yeah.
Like every pressure, it kills me because I was like part of counterculture. And I think actually counterculture saved me. But I thought I was so rebellious and so different. And so then to learn that I had been masking was just crushing. But of course they did, right? And then look at that. So I think the number one place to look is, what is your sensory experience like? Where are you hypersensitive? Why are you hyposensitive? And and then what can you change in your environment to accommodate those things? I work best most of the time virtually
Me too.
because being around other humans in for large amounts of time, I will lose my emotional connection to myself altogether and I will only feel other people's emotions. Can be a really powerful thing. Like I think that's why I got promoted and it was so
Mm.
successful in in my work life. But it was exhausting for me. So I try to have this barrier. Um, I I have all of my comfort items on me, around me at all times. Like I just change my environment so it feels cozy and it feels comforting and it feels calming. Um, simple things, right? I if I put on a shirt and it's not comfortable, I don't question it. I take it off immediately. I put on a different shirt. Like
Mm.
sounds so simple, but I would
Yeah.
have used to like wear that thing. And then a portion of my being all day is thinking about that, how uncomfortable I am. Um, so kind of going through those like that full range of sensory needs, like um, turning like is light what's going to get you, and then making sure I think fully leaning into the concept of stimming. What is it that calms you down? And knowing that if you are discovering this later in life, you have probably shut down most of those behaviors and they're going to feel weird for a
Mm.
while. But like having go to things that you can do, um, I consistently do this, right? And I have to do little patterns with my fingers consistently. Um,
Oh, I'm playing with my fingers
yeah, like
outside camera
having
range.
exactly. Um, And so just looking at like everything, looking at tactile, looking at hearing, looking at vision, look at the everything and where am I most sensitive? And is there a simple thing I can do to just alleviate a little bit of that pressure? And it's worth noticing that this also gets into the realm of privilege real fast, right? Like it s- sometimes it's like, well, that'd be nice if I could do that, but I can't afford to do that. So I
Mm,
just want to like honor that space and say like, okay, well, what can you do? Like the shirts thing. Like what clothing do you have that know what clothing you have that's comfortable? Um, can you have some sunglasses that you wear inside even? Who cares if people get you funny, you know? Um, maybe things with your body, right, are big. So in interoception, do you know when you have to pee? Do you know when you're thirsty or hungry? You might not, and so things like having a schedule that you follow for basic body care
mm.
can be super helpful too. I could go on and on. Um,
Yeah, I just thought about it. A little thing I do, like for these lives, I keep thinking I should have a better background and
mhm.
my headphones, but I just sit on the sofa because it makes me feel safer. I have something in my back and it's comfortable and it just makes me feel safer to go online
Yes,
for
yes,
things like that. And my
yes.
headphones, same thing, help me focus and
Hmm.
it makes me feel safer and I don't have to worry about my hair so much too.
Yeah, right. Win,
So
win, win. Check, check,
just
check. Yeah,
and I don't worry about what do I wear.
yeah, yeah.
I just decided that for
Yep.
myself. That took me a long time to get to that point because you have this idea I have to put makeup on, which I never do, or something like that. And I've just pared it
Hmm.
down. I can show up like this right now. It might
Hmm.
change, but
Yeah.
if that makes it possible for me to even show up, then I'll show up very imperfect. Better than
And
not.
yes, like, yes, I 100% agree with everything you said. And to add to that, what you're doing is also kind of the most valuable form of rebellion, too. Because, like, and I'll do this too, like, where I'll just be like, I'm just going to move my body in weird ways. I walk the dog and I'm just weird, I'm like
Mm,
trying more and more to be like visibly me because I'm slowly pushing back against those societal norms,
mm,
you know? Like just showing up and dressing how you're comfortable, just not worrying about, like those seemingly small acts are huge. And I have seen a shift, right, in how people show up too. So, yeah, we got some good stuff popping up in the chat here.
yeah.
When did your energy switch more towards discovering ways to accommodate yourself and away for asking others to accommodate you? Oh,
Ooh.
um, that's so good. Um, I'm just thinking about this and I'm just taking a minute, Brad, to like really sit with that. I almost I almost have the opposite problem. I think I came from I need to take care of me in a lot of ways perspective.
Mm,
And it's been harder for me to ask others to change for me. Um, and I've worked with people from both perspectives. So I think perhaps a good place to start with that question is where am I right now? Do I
mm,
see, because I used to see it was all my responsibility,
yeah.
right? And I had this like what I call I have a recovering Wonder Woman complex. Like, I can do that.
My
That was
God.
my first, I can do that.
That-
Whatever somebody asked
that's
me,
so
I would say I
great.
could do it.
I love that.
And
Wonder
it's
Woman.
like, oh my God, maybe, but should you? So where are you starting? Are you starting from everything's my responsibility? I have the burden of the world on my shoulders. I must, I can't ask for anything from anybody else or I'm burdening them. Or are you starting from everybody else needs to shift to make me more comfortable? or maybe you're starting in the middle. And my eternal lesson in life is to not pendulum swing, not go from one extreme to the other, but to see where's a little bit of the middle, right? So yes, so the power in me being in charge of it is I'm the only human I have any control over.
Mm,
So I think that's the like I'm the only person, and I've done a lot of like I'm not an alcoholic and addict, but in past lives I've been around a lot of alcoholics and addicts. So I've done a lot of work with that. Then you can't change another person, and it permeates out, right, to everything. Even my 7-year-old kid, I cannot change that person, even though they're 7. Um, and so when it so me making changes felt the most accessible. Um, and I was too extreme on that side. So there's a lot of value, and especially in if we want systems and we want workplaces that are stronger and that are more designed for how we all actually are, rather than this view of what it you should be, then we have to ask for others to accommodate us too.
mm,
Um, yeah, so I think it's that funny. We kind of got to flow between the two of those things. That would be my ideal for each human.
yeah, that's where communication skills come in too. Communicating it in ways that both can agree and understand.
Yeah.
Um, Mia said something really interesting. It's so hard to push against feeling obliged to keep pushing through overwhelm because people are counting on us.
Mhm.
And then finding a balance feels like a skill set that needs to be learned. Yeah,
I
especially women.
I my body had to literally give out for me to stop pushing. And then it yeah, like it had to like lay me up in bed. I very vividly remember the 5 years before that happening and being in intense pain all the time and being like, "Oh, maybe this is just what it feels like to get old. I'm just gonna keep going." You know, I'm gonna my mind was convinced it could figure it out. I'm gonna just try something different. I'm just gonna schedule myself different. I'm just gonna have a different job. I'm gonna da 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 da. Yeah. But that's what I started with that toxic productivity though, right? That's push through at all costs. So and then my body finally said, no. Nope. Nope and nope. So and then I learned I was dissociated from my body, which is a whole other topic. And so that's one of my coolest journeys that I've been on is like reintegrating.
Yeah,
Um, and actually learning, oh, like if I want a true indicator of how I actually am doing, I need to consult my body, not my mind.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big one. So Mia asked, where do we go to book a session?
Yeah. You um yeah, I think we'll probably be putting the
The
my
link, I'll
links
put the link for the
in the yeah.
website
So but I
on
can
the
tell
with
it
the
to you
record.
also. I have this thing though, like as soon as you ask me like what's your favorite book or something, I forget the name of the book. So I'm going to just type it in to make sure I read it correctly. It's it's wizards-way.mykajabi.com, and I'll put that in the. Um, and one thing I didn't say is so I do traditional one-on-one coaching, but I also do like special session and like creative work. Where instead of just talking, we can build an online fantasy map of a situation, right? And so, like, this is where I am and this is where I want to be. We can do that visually. We can do role play gaming based activities. I like to do um, story based or art based explorations of this. I'm a huge experiment junkie. Um, yeah, yeah.
Awesome. This has been really great. I think this is a great point to wrap it up. Thanks so much. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming and being here and participating. This has been great. And thank you, Claire. I actually do want to keep talking on with you. It sounds really interesting. When you said these role playing sessions, I was like, that would be a
Mhm.
great group thing for
Yeah.
maybe
Ooh, yeah.
yeah, for people like us
Yeah.
to work on our dreams in like that format. So, anyway, thank you so much, Claire. This has been great. Um, and thanks, everybody.
Yeah, and thank you, Satora, and thank you so much for adding your perspective in. It's so rich, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay, now we push the button. Bye.